Hey guys, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about getting stuck on what you need to do opposed to doing what you love, or sometimes not knowing what you love but getting so stuck with what you need to do in life. I'm going to talk a bit about that process. This is a conversation that I noticed comes up quite a bit. It was an experience that I went through years ago where, I was very attached to what I was doing because I thought it provided me a lifestyle. I believed very much that what I did when I went to work and the results that I got and the outcomes that came financially is what was providing me a life, providing me a living. And that's what was very scary to let go of in then going and following where my heart wanted to go. I couldn't do it until years later. So, it's a common thing that comes up when I ask people, you would know this, what do you love? Some of them don't even know what they love yet. And they go, well, and they will then talk about, well, I'm stuck doing this. And they kind of talk about what they don't love, But then some people also do know what they love, but they're so tied into doing what they need to do. Why is that? What do you think why does that process unfold, and why do we get so stuck on the need to do stuff? Needing to make a living stuff.
There's a concept of making a living. So the concept of making a living is doing the things that you need to do to exist, to survive. But where people get confused is they think to themselves, well, I need to make a living so that one day I can make a life. Yeah. It doesn't work like that. They're two different things, okay? One is playing cricket, the other one is playing baseball. You're using two different equipment, if you like. You can't play baseball and then try to play cricket with it, right? You got to use the right tools for the right area of your life that you're trying to master. So making a life is all about the things that you're, that's within your heart. What is it? The things like, where do I want to live? Who do I want to be? Right? Like, how do I want to be? Right? And it's really about who you're being. That's what making a life is about. Making a living is all the things that you got to do, pay the bills, just existence, as I said before, but to make a life, the trick is, right, most people get stuck in just making a living because they think to themselves, well, this is what's most important. Now, again, I've spoke about this before. That's not what's most important. Sometimes that's what's most urgent.
Yes,
What's most important is making a life.
Yes.
What's most important is what is it that you love? Who is it that you came here to be? Right? That's what's most important. Why? Because that's when you feel most alive. Right? But the confusion is, what's most urgent is what I gotta pay my bills. I gotta make a living. Right? But let's just be very clear. That's not what's most important. That's what's most urgent. Right? But you don't put urgency over importance. You put importance first, what's most important, then you manage the urgency. We focus on our strengths, we manage our weaknesses. We focus on what's most important. Focus on what's most important, making a life. Then you manage the making a living.
So as you said that, first thing that comes up, I go back to my experience, where I would not be so aware that in making a life, the making a living almost takes care of itself. I didn't really experience that. I was so consumed with, hang on, but if I don't put all my attention into the things that are urgent, my life will fall apart.
So the confusion here is, right, or the misinterpretation is that, I got to focus on making a living so that I can one day make a life. But it's actually the other way around. What happens is that when you're focused on making a life, which is, again, matters of the heart, who do you want to be? Who do you want to live with? Who do you want to love? All the being things, right? When you focus on that then flows into making a living. What I mean by that, I don't want to sound woo-woo, right? What I mean by that is that when you're being who you're here to be, right, that creates clarity and effectiveness in what you're doing, right? So what you're doing is potentially, again, it could be things that you love to do, but it could, what I'm trying to say is that when you focus on making a life and you've really mastered that, right? It's that self-mastery in being yourself, right? That flows into your effectiveness, your efficiency in how you're making a living, right? So what that means is that suddenly the things that you are or were doing for making a living is not so much about a push and a struggle and the blood and the sweat and the tears that you're used to, right? Because you're used to putting all your blood, sweat and tears and taking risks and being attached and, pushing and forcing in the matters of making a living. That's what we're used to doing, right? But that changes when you focus on what's most important, which is making a life. Now, I can hear people going, yeah, but what's making a life? Like we're talking about who you're being, like what self-mastery.
Or you can see here Kate saying, but if being who you came here to be is scary, how do you know if it's right? Because that's where I was leading, because sometimes it feels so scary to make it about your heart because it seems so then uncertain.
I think it's more scary when you're not being who you need to be, right? Because it's I don't know. It feels like there's a suffocation, right? Because when you're not being who you came here to be, there's a pressure. There's like an elephant that starts to sit on your chest, and it's a slow death, right? If you don't make a life, it's just slowly squeezing you and pressuring you. To me, that's more frightening. I get the fear that sometimes when someone faces in making a life or being who they came here to be, but if only you knew what's on the other side of that, like you wouldn't be afraid, right? Like it's sometimes you don't know what's really there because it's an unknown. Like you feel to express this, to be this person. I never forget when I first started speaking, I felt to speak, but I had all these, I used to be a promoter and used to promote all these amazing speakers. And I wasn't a speaker, I was the promoter, right? The most I had ever done was MC and introduce the speakers. So the idea of me speaking was just so far stretched. I would compare myself to all these other speakers who've been doing all this study and all this research.
Very wise.
They were very intelligent. Right? So there was all this uncertainty, right? Uncertainty about, can I even do it? Is it even possible, right? But that's the thing. It's about throwing yourself into that uncertainty. And I understand that is a frightening experience, but only if you knew what's on the other side, right? You would grab your heart, you would throw it over that wall, and you will climb over that wall. Do you know what I mean? When you throw your heart, as they say, you throw your heart over the wall, and then you chase after it. Like there's no other option. So that wall, that hurdle, right? You are going over it, and that's just the way it is. So I understand the fear, but if you really looked at the option of not following your heart or making a life or being the person that you came here to be, being the person you came here to be is also a lot to do with self-actualization, self-realization, which is all the things that we're talking about. Yeah. Right? So if you just for once had a look at the option of not doing that, right? If that's still an option for you, right? If not doing that, if not being who you came to be is still an option and feels a little bit comfortable and safe, you're not ready anyway. You that for me anyway, that option of making a living, it was gone, man. Like it was no option. That option was no, like I remember being in a position, I took a sabbatical in my life, and I took 12 months off and did nothing and just watched all my income, or I didn't have an income, but watched all my savings dwindle away, right? So, and I got to a point where I was between a rock and a hard place, as they say, and I really didn't have any money left, and I was just like, how am I going to survive? And there was an option to, well, I got this guy who wants to do this business opportunity. It's going to create income. It's going to create a wage, and I remember going, because it was so difficult, I took that option, right? It's not what I really wanted to do, right? But it was making a living, which I get. I'm not saying you don't make a living, but for me, right there, I was in my sabbatical. It wasn't time to do that. I did that. It lasted 2 weeks, and because I went there, my heart didn't come with me.
Yeah.
Right? Came back. And after that, there was no more option. Like for me, this is what the conversation I had with myself is I'm going all the way. I didn't know what that meant. All the way. And I remember thinking to myself, even if I become homeless, I'm going all the way. Now, it sounds very harsh. It just meant I'm willing to go through whatever I need to go through. I'm not living that life anymore where I'm treading this mouse wheel, right? And, it's the same reality in repeat. I make more money, doesn't make a difference. It just changes. Things change size. They change, they change form. But the feeling doesn't change. You're still running on that treadmill, right? You have more businesses. You have more kids. It doesn't change.
Same
right? You still, and that's why a lot of people fall into a loneliness and a feeling of being depressed because they're just doing only what they think is important. It's not. It's what's urgent. That's not what's most important. What's most important is who are you, right? Who are you? Who are you here to be? Well, I watched the movie the other day, and I got you guys to watch it as a homework as my coaching group.
Lucy.
The movie called Lucy. And one of the biggest things that stood out is so many quotes in that movie, so many quotes. But one thing that stood out for me is humans, basically humans are, these weren't the exact words, but humans are obsessed with what their havings rather than who they're here to be.
Humans are more focused on having than being.
That's it. Thank you. You said it so brilliantly. So poetic, Jamie. But that's what it's just, and that's what we are. We're just focused on having, right? Which is all the making a living things.
The doings
right? But if you focus on your being, right? The having comes, but you don't have to work. And when I say you don't have to work for it, how it comes is effortless. Where the other one, you have to work for it. You have to swap time, money. You have to.
When you get it, you hang on to it.
You have to give blood, sweat, tears, and And when you get it, you.
It's it's everything you say. Fully resonate with, and can relate to, especially my own journey. One of the things that I look at though, and as you're speaking, when you talk about, how can you not come here and be who you are. It's like you throwing your heart over the wall because you could feel what was over the wall. Because you said something before. You said, if only you knew what was there for you, and I look back at myself and I think, well, how did I come to connect and get a sense of what was there for me? Because I feel like I'm asking myself, how did I become aware of that? Because I wasn't aware.
You don't. I'm sorry. You don't become aware of that. Your decision to follow your heart or your being, right? Truth seekers. You find people sometimes. There's sometimes real truth seekers, and they're just yearning for the truth.
Yes,
they're just hungry, yearning, thirsty for the truth, right? But even that, they don't know what the truth is. There's just a yearning. There's a feeling.
And you're talking about the truth of who they are. That's what you mean by truth.
Yes,
right?
not the truth of what the conspiracy is.
Yeah.
Right? That's, not the truth that has an opposite, which is a lie.
Yes.
Well, this is this lie. This is this truth. That's related to the story. If you transcend the story, there's the truth with a capital T, like Matrix stuff.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, Matrix, the movie.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, anyway, where was I going with that?
I was saying, how do you connect with that? And like,
if you're a truth seeker, you connect with that, and it's driving you. But most people are not truth seekers, right? Right. Most people,
they're here for the show.
No, don't put words in my mouth. Right? Most people, right? You're good at finishing my sentence. I know. Now you're putting words in my mouth as well, right? Most people, they get onto, realizing who they are or what's the truth because nothing else is working. Because if your life was amazing and you were making millions or billions or whatever it is that your goal is, and everybody loved you and you're just so amazing and you got so many followers, that you wouldn't be asking what's the truth.
So true.
You're just like, what truth? What truth? I'm totally comfortable. I'm consumed by my comfort. So
You're reminding me of a time in my life where that was so happening for me. Like I went on a truth, but got so distracted in my mid-20s, and I just so related to that. Then I'm like, I got this.
that's what happened. You know how many clients I get who come across, and you know, I get the truth seekers, right? And they're a special breed. They are a special breed. And I got to tell you, like, when I was 12 or 13, I was a truth seeker, right? By the time I really came on this path, I wasn't a truth seeker. It was just like this rat race. It ain't working.
Yeah.
Right? And I can see, I started, you know, I was on the verge of bankruptcy. So I had all these failures. I was on the verge of bankruptcy twice. Never declared bankrupt, but I was on the verge of bankruptcy twice. But then I made money and I was living in a nice apartment, boats, things like traveling around in the front of the plane, in the back of the car, if you know what I mean. And it's still like, I still felt the rat race. It's just the wheel was spinning faster now. It's like, you know when you're on the treadmill and you run really, 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 really fast, you can't get off. But do you know what I mean? If you're running, if the treadmill's going really fast, you can't stop.
Otherwise
right?
you get
And
hurt.
that's what happens. You make more money, everything becomes bigger life, bigger this, bigger, right? And you can't get off the treadmill.
It's like the fear of stopping or the pain of stopping things even greater now, you know? Like,
But what I'm trying to say to you is that, you know, you're saying, well, how can, if only people knew what's on the other side, right? Most people are not driven by what's on the other side unless they're a truth seeker, right? Most people are driven by running away from the life they know it's not real anymore.
And what can I get now?
It's like, this isn't real for me anymore. Like there is no, there's the meaning of what it was it doesn't mean that anymore, right? This blood, sweat and tears, like, that's not what I came here, right? My treadmill has become bigger. What's it called? The mouse wheel. My mouse wheel has become bigger. It's driven faster, but that's not it, right? When that is broken and you know for sure that that's not what reality is and there's something more, something's missing, something's not whole, something's incomplete, that's when they're like, what's behind that wall? They don't know what's behind the wall, but that's when they go, all right, what's behind the wall? What do you know, Amir? That's when that happens. But like I said, then you get the truth seekers. They're not running away from that reality. They're running towards something. Okay, but most people are not running towards something. Most people are, and I was saying this to you because I relate to this because when I was 12 or 13, I was a truth seeker. Like I had many spiritual experiences, very profound. You know, when I became 18, I thought, you know what, I think I just made that shit up. I think I was a kid, 12, 13. And I remember sitting down to my mum, just like, I think I just made that stuff. It was my imagination. My mum goes, no, you didn't. That was very real. So, but when I came back on the path, because I had to digress and go and become successful, I remember speaking to my mother and saying, you know, I'm just going to go into business. And she's like, well, why are you going to do that? Are you passionate about the business? I go, no, I just want to go make money. I'm done. I'm done with not having any money. She goes, you know, that's not going to make things easier or make you happy. But I had to digress, and I digressed for 7 years. And when I noticed that wheel was not really giving me what it is, you assume it is, right? But you know it's not. Only you know. No one can do. When I noticed that was broken, and broken by broken I mean, you know, it's not giving me the fulfillment of what it promised me. Then I went, what's behind the wall? Yeah. So I've come both ways. Like I was a truth seeker at 12 or 13, right? Then I went, this truth stuff, I'm going to go make money, right?
Very similar story.
Yeah. So I've done both. Yeah. But it's either, it's the towards or away. You're either driven.
I love how you define that.
You're driven towards what's behind the wall, if you like, or behind the door, or however you want to see it, behind the matrix,
the curtain,
right? The curtain, right? That's the truth seeker. Then you got the ones that's like this mouse wheel, this treadmill. Yeah, it ain't working, and they are running away from that, which is fine. Either or will get you.
There's many ways to the truth, many pathways.
You sound
so they say. Where did I hear that from?
You sound so poetic.
When you saw making a life, do you just mean connecting to and following the feeling, or are there specific aspects to making a life?
Is what's real.
Yeah.
Making a life is, you know, it's again, the entry point is in your heart. It's the things that you came here to be. It's the things that you came here to manifest, create. It's the things, I say both words because depending on where you are, you'll interpret that. The things that you came here to share, the things that you came here to express, all those are coming from your being, right? It's your self-realization. You have to self-realize, self-actualize before you realize what you've come here to be and share, right? And give and express and manifest, right? But when it's not from that, it's what's the world got for me? What am I going to get from this relationship? What are my children giving to me? What's my employment? They owe me. What's my country doing for me? What's my government do? It's all about what do I have?
And what do I get?
It's all about what you're having, right? That's the difference. That's the difference. And again, I don't say that to sound more spiritual or sound more loving when I say it's what you're here to give, what you're here to express. But no, when you're coming from the real feeling, it feels very whole and complete. So naturally, it's about giving from that wholeness and completeness. When you're doing something that's not from the real feeling, it feels incomplete. So therefore, you're looking at completion. Who can I find but my relationship, someone that will complete me, right? That's where if you feel whole and complete, you're not looking to be in a relationship for completeness, right? It's very, very different, right?
Very different.
Yeah.
Why in a relationship then? So people are clear?
Well, that's the thing. At that point, you don't need to be in a relationship, right? And I say this a lot of times on stage, and I say, well, people go, well, hang on, if you no longer need to be in a relationship, why would you be in a relationship? Because you love to, right? Because when were you in a relationship because you needed to? Do you know what I mean?
I've seen that happen.
When were you in a relationship when you needed to? When I needed to feel whole and complete. When I needed to find my soulmate so I could feel whole and complete. Find the wholeness, find the completeness in yourself. Then it's about bringing and sharing that, right? Rather than looking for completion.
That's way more important than calling in your soul partner and soul mate. You know, it's finding and feeling that sense of completion.
Yeah.
You know? Anyway, well, look, I'd love how you defined all that. It was a great clarification and good questions, guys. Appreciate that, Zoe. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in today. Lots of love to everybody from around the world, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Ciao.